Hello and welcome. Today we are going to be going through the review of Fire Emblem Engage. I am particularly familiar with the series. It's probably one of my favorite series. I haven't played all the games, some of the earlier ones and some of the smaller ones. The mobile one I tried for like a day. Didn't really enjoy that. This review will be slight spoilers, nothing too big on stories, more just kind of gameplay and things I kind of feel like you might need to know. So, with that said, let's get into it. The game starts with your character. They have amnesia, which is kind of common in Fire Emblem games. I feel like, it's easy for a narrative telling device. You don't have to have like a backstory for your character. It's like, oh, new character, start the game. Here you go. So it's fine. So it's an interesting concept to start. It's kind of even with the trailers and things. They're bringing back all these old favorite characters to come and I don't know help you battle the things called or emblems, and you engage. That's why it's called engage. Right away when I started the game, I think I started as the guy, and I didn't really enjoy the voice acting, so I ended up switching it to Japanese, and I still didn't like the guy, so I switched to the girl version of the character whose name I kind of forgot already. They always have these obscure names, but whatever. I am playing on hard mode, classic. It's kind of what I normally do. It's little harder than I think. It's kind of the medium mode, like the middle difficulty, which I know there's been like controversy in the past about like the naming because it's like, oh, there's hard. I forgot the other one, easy, normal, and normal is still really hard for people who like aren't familiar with the game. So easy is probably the better one, but I don't know. I've played this game a lot, like I said. So did on hard mode. I do classic because that's the classic way where if you lose somebody they die forever. This is how I've always done it. It's how I like it. Kind of makes people feel important instead of just either losing them at the end. You see their little summary at the end of the game. Oh, they died in this battle, or turning it off, which makes the strategy kind of pointless, where you just kind of throw people until they die, and you just got to clear the level. The first big snag that I came through in the game was like chapter 10, 11, I think. They were very difficult. It took a lot of times, a lot of saves. The all the characters you're going against kind of can one shot you. So at this point in the game, you've collected a few of your emblem rings, but in these chapters, you lose them, and you have to escape without them. And the point isn't really to fight; it's really to get out. And you have people in front of you fighting. There's people chasing you behind, and if you just are one step off, you get nailed. So that was probably the hardest part. The levels varied pretty differently between the two. They had different types of mechanics, either like to seize something, kill everyone, escape, which kind of made it fresh. A lot of times it can kind of feel different, where it's just like, oh, clear the whole camps, or just like the really basic ones in Fire Emblem. But this one, they did a good job of varying it up every once in a while. One thing I did notice is that money was kind of hard to come by in the game. I don't know if that was intentional or if they imagine you do a lot more of the side quests and kind of investing. There's this new mechanic you kind of invest into the different zones, and you can get more rewards and things out of doing levels and repeating or doing like the kind of like the daily missions. I didn't do a lot of those, so I kind of came up a little short with money from time to time trying to buy seals to upgrade everybody. One of my bigger complaints probably with the game is the somnial stuff. It was cool right away. It's essentially kind of like the in between zone in between levels where you like talk to your different people, you build up your support and stuff like that, which is fun right away. Kind of similar to the cathedral in Three Houses, where you were training people and getting them stronger, and doing stuff like that. It gets a little grating after a while, and towards probably about 2/3 of the way, I just started skipping it because it didn't seem to give you the benefit as much toward the end game. I mean, it did. You got what you put into it, but at that point, I was probably 60 something hours in, and I didn't want to deal with it anymore. Support conversations in this game kind of took a different role, I think, than the other games. It was pretty easy to get high level supports with almost everyone, and you can also do it through like I forgot different activities in the Somniel. I'm not saying that right. I don't know. It's probably like French or something. But later on, you see why that it's easier because it kind of ties into something later in combat, which makes you want to have higher levels with the main character. I should really look. I need to look up what's the name. Alir, that's what it is. Yeah, it's like Byleth, Alir. These just I don't know how they come up with these names. There's a lot of content in this game. Um, there's all sorts of side missions, trainings, skirmishes, and to get each level, each emblem up to increase their levels from 10 to 20 is kind of hard. You kind of have to pick and choose who you want leveled up with who, which I mean is a good part of the game. You wouldn't want everyone to be fully maxed out with every emblem. It would just kind of be pointless. So you really gotta kind of coordinate. You can make all these various teams, various combos of characters and emblems. I think I really noticed in this game, which I don't think they really had in Three Houses. They might have a little bit, but a lot of the levels tended to have infinite spawning enemies, which I don't think is very common in the past. Maybe it was in order to stop people from, everyone's done the different like cheese things with like the dancers. You dance them to level cap, or you heal up your helos to cap with all their as long as you have the mends and the heals. And the enemies don't give you XP, so you can't farm them either. It's just kind of a pain, and you can get overwhelmed pretty easily if you just kind of let them all come at you. I thought the final boss of the game was pretty unique from different ones in the past. I mean, it's a dragon. It always is in every game. Um, I liked that you had to fight these things called dark emblems, which were essentially the counterparts to the emblems you had from their game. So you get to see all these old enemies back again, which was also really cool. Um, in that level, there's again lots of spawning enemies, so they kind of force you to be more adventurous and get out there instead of just kind of taking your time and holding back and kind of being too methodical, which is hard because that's what I typically like to do. But um, it felt like kind of a long final boss fight, but I thought it was good at the end. Um, they leave you with one, like, kind of, what do you call it? Hanging thread or something that, like, a mystery to leave you with. I don't know if you'll break into it into the DLC of this game, but that kind of bugged me a little bit when you're at the end and they're like, oh, well, here's something you don't know about. But I doubt they'll lead to like a sequel or anything because I don't think they typically do those. They did with, what was it? Path of Radiance and the other one? I don't remember. Overall, I thought it was a really good game, really good Fire Emblem game. I played about 102 hours, and that was with me avoiding most of the side content, and that's with no DLC. So I think you definitely get your worth out of the game. it'd probably be a little shorter for people who probably a little better at the game, honestly. Or I kind of played disjointedly. I stopped and started and trying to remember like all the characters, all the combinations, all the like switching and upgrades and stuff like that you had to do. It'd probably take other people. It'd probably take like 60 or 90 hours. What I saw online for most people, depending on your difficulty. I thought it was very challenging. I didn't think it was over challenging, but again, that was on, I guess, the medium difficulty. There were very few levels that you kind of just would breeze through. You could really have to kind of think what you need to do, your goals, your teams, and the objective you had to take care of. DLC looks good. From what I saw, it looks like they're adding some emblems, some other old-time favorites. I don't know how that will like go into like the canon of the game, the story, but the thing, one thing I didn't think I liked too much was that all the characters you're kind of playing with are the royals. They're essentially the best ones to take with you. You get a couple of like their what do you call it? Their retainers to like join you, and you can pick some of them too. But the royal people are really the best. And I like kind of some of the other games, Fire Emblem games, where you pick up just like a random guy, or like he's kind of like a mercenary on the other team. You're like, hey, why don't you join us? And he ends up being super great. So those are my favorite characters. I was kind of disappointed in the thief spec. Assassin tends to be one of my favorite ones, just in games in general. But they didn't really have that. They just had the thief, who wasn't an upgradable class. They were kind of a unique class. I think there was another class like that too. Was it dancers? Probably. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. And then my final criticism of the game would be just that there was a lot in it. There was a lot of kind of micro gameplay, just with the Somniel in general. But with the emblems, you could upgrade. You could inherit abilities from the emblems you had or that you leveled up with. And so you could kind of mix and match all these powers with people, which was cool, but kind of hard to do. And then on top of it, there was weapons. You could upgrade your weapons. You could sync emblems with your weapons. And then there was battle potions that were per battle you could use, and just there was a lot of kind of micromanaging you could do, which felt a little overwhelming, and I didn't really want to partake in it, so I just kind of stuck with emblems and inheriting, and I skipped everything else. And also, like I said, most of those things cost resources, and I didn't have a lot of those because I didn't do a lot of the side missions, which I think they wanted you to do more of, but that kind of restricted what I could do. But it was fine. Yeah, that's my overall review of Fire Emblem Engage. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Leave a like on the video, and thanks for joining me.